I am proud to have Lauren Goble, our educational programs coordinator here at Georgia Farm Bureau, with me today. We are actually talking via Microsoft Teams or Zoom, but I am proud to have her on the line. Lauren, how are you this morning?
Doing good. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Great to talk with you. Lauren, before we go into the podcast, our discussion today for the podcast, rather, we're going to be talking about your Ag in the Classroom programs and all the things and resources that go along with that. But before we get into that, talk to me about your background. Tell the audience who you are, what you do, and kind of how you got to where you are now.
Sure. So, like John said, I'm Lauren Goble. I was a school teacher for 8 years. I taught pre-K, kindergarten, and first grade. Loved every minute of it. Loved having those fun experiences with my kids, and quickly realized my second or third day of teaching that the kids in my classroom did not know anything about agriculture. I actually was holding up a peach, and I said, "All right, y'all, where did this peach come from?" Thinking at that time I was teaching in Macon, so we're not too far from peach country. And a little boy raised his hand. He was so excited. He said, "I know where it came from, the Dollar General." I was like, "Oh my goodness." So I knew that we had some things that we needed to learn about. So at that moment, really started incorporating agriculture into as many of my lessons as I could. I think for me, growing up on a farm, it was just shocking that kids didn't know, and apparently their parents didn't know because they're those conversations weren't being had at in the family. Um, so reached out to the Farm Bureau there, made some contacts, made some friends, and then I moved over to Jones County Schools, which is where I grew up and currently live in, and really got to know that Farm Bureau really well. My grandmother was president of Jones County Farm Bureau decades ago, and so it was an easy meeting, great meeting those ladies, and the president over there, and they really provided a lot of support for my classroom, sent me to conferences, let me go to the National Ag and Classroom Conference up in Louisville, Kentucky, which really opened up my eyes to more ag and classroom resources and content. Brought all of that back to my classroom. And then that year was 2015. They asked me to apply for the Georgia Farm Bureau Ag and Classroom Teacher of the Year. So I thought, well, I do owe that to them. They have poured a lot of resources and friendship into me. And so I filled out the application, and then was shocked to win that award in 2015. And then in 2016, I applied for the National Ag and Classroom Teacher of the Year and was one of six teachers to get that award that year. Um, when you're doing something that you love and you're passionate about, it doesn't feel like work. So it was really nice to see someone look at what you're doing and say, "You're doing a great job. We want to recognize you for your efforts." So because I got those awards, I was able to speak at our educational leadership conference where I met the field services department, and they had a job opening within Georgia Farm Bureau as a field rep, and they asked me to apply, and that started my career at Georgia Farm Bureau. Uh, Very different than teaching, John. Now you're dealing with adults and not kids, and we're not doing fun crafts and activities and experiments anymore. Um, but I was a field rep for 2 years in the Middle Georgia area. In the last 6 years, I've been with the Ag in the Classroom program. And so it's been really fun to travel across the state, meet really cool people, teachers, volunteers, partners, and just continue to grow that network that makes Ag in the Classroom such an amazing program.
Absolutely, you do great work. I work alongside Lauren.
Yes.
A lot of times we make resources together that we'll be talking about soon. But Lauren, for someone listening that is not part of Farm Bureau, not part of the even maybe the even the ag community, explain what Ag in the Classroom is and kind of what that program does for agriculture.
Yeah, so Ag in the Classroom, what I have tried to make that program is free resources for teachers. So agriculture is our number one industry. And if we're not teaching students what agriculture is, what does it look like, how does it impact your daily life, who's doing it? We're 3 to 4 generations removed from the farm, which I quickly saw when I walked into my first classroom. Um, and agriculture touches every single part of what we do. And so it's just trying to get teachers say, okay, I can teach this standard through the lens of agriculture and make that topic become hands-on. Kids are living agriculture every day and don't realize it. So how can we make things easier for you? What resource can we provide you? How can we connect you to experts in the field? So if you're looking for that professional contact, if you're looking for field trips, and then also with Ag in the Classroom, because Georgia Farm Bureau is a grassroots organization and we have an office in every county, that is a great way for teachers to really get to know agriculture in their county, in their area, and have those guest speakers come into their classroom or know the resources that are in their county or surrounding it because agriculture is a very close community. So even if you live in South Georgia and there's not any apples growing, somebody around you knows an apple farmer in North Georgia to be able to put those pieces together. And so I am there to create resources. I'm there to connect the dots, send people where they need to go. I get lots of emails, text, phone calls, messages, however people like to communicate. So I just really see my role as helping people as best I can. So when they're getting ready to teach a lesson or learn more, they know exactly where to go and get that information.
Awesome. So, when you talk about resources, what does that look like? What kind of things do you provide to these county offices, teachers, anybody that needs them or wants them?
So on our website, you can find coloring pages, bookmarks, ag mags. We have a commodity map that highlights our top commodities and the top counties producing those commodities. It also has different ag facts and activities on it. My favorite resource that we provide is our Book of the Month program. So county farm bureaus can opt into that, and that will be going out to counties in October. So coming up really quick. So that's something that you're interested in. Contact your local farm bureau. Tell them you heard about on this podcast, and find out how you can be part of that. Um, but I highlight 12 books. It's really hard, John, to whittle down
Hmm.
12 books because I have a very large stack on my desk.
I've
But
seen
try
it.
to find, I know there's so many. I have an addiction. But trying to find 12 books on different commodities. So we represent animals, fruit, vegetables, aquaculture, you name it. Hopefully you can get recognized. And I create an activity page where I share ag facts related to the book. Activities, I know that teachers spend a lot of money out of their pocket, so cheap, free, easy things to do. Also, easy activities. So, if our volunteers go into the classroom and they have 30 minutes to read a book and do an activity, they have something right there they can pick from. But my favorite part of Book of the Month, John, and you've been part of this, is the videos that we do with a Georgia farmer or
Hmm.
rancher. I think it's important for students to meet farmers and ranchers across our state. It's hard to be a cheerleader for something you don't know about, or you don't have a personal connection to. So actually, John and I were together in LJ recently doing a video about
Hmm.
apples,
Yep.
um, and some delicious apple fried pies. And so
Hmm.
letting kids meet the apple farmer, talk about the growing process, how the apples are graded, and then they're turned into this wonderful product just so kids can see that process. And so we've done really cool videos. We've done something with Department of Transportation. We've done things about sheep. We've done things about chocolate. So we've kind of run all sorts of cool commodities through this program. So right now I'm working on finalizing those books for 2025, and just continuing that resource. I think teachers are looking for accurate ag books, and those are very hard to find. So
Hmm.
my husband always jokes when Amazon makes delivery, how many books are in the delivery today? Because I'm constantly finding things like I need to read it, and then I go back to the UPS store with a stack of books to return. But
Yeah.
that's just part of the process.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, with that being said, two questions.
Hmm.
First one is, it is a great resource, and I'm a little biased. Obviously, I work for Farm Bureau. Sometimes I even help with them, but I do think it's really neat. It's a really cool resource, and I think if I was a teacher, I would be loving it. But with that being said, how receptive are teachers that get it? I mean, what's the feedback been, and what kind of an impact do they see it? What kind of impact do they say it makes in their classrooms?
So it's one of those things where teachers are so overloaded
Mhm.
with mandatory reading lessons, mandatory math lessons. And so sometimes it's hard to get teachers to think about adding something else to their lessons. And so I
Yeah.
try to really stress that we're not trying to add anything to your plate. We're just trying to make what you're already teaching more hands-on, more connected to their state, their county, what is impacting them daily. And when we have teachers who use our resources, they come to one of our workshops where I get to meet them in person. And once they realize what we have and they implement that in their classroom, they're hooked. Like they're going to continue to provide those resources, provide that content. And what's great is I'm a party of one for ag in the classroom, and
Mhm.
so I can only stretch myself so much. But we have great partners, John, and like you've worked a lot of them through your farm monitor connections. Um,
Mhm.
but we have National Ag in the Classroom that has great lesson plans. We have American Farm Bureau that has their foundation has amazing ag mags, educator guides, online games. So there's a lot of people working to make sure teachers have the resources they need, and if at all possible, it's free or basically at cost because we know, like I said earlier, teachers spend a lot of money out of their pocket. But it's one of those things once they start doing more ag lessons, they see how much their kids love it. You'll have that kid that's constantly in trouble in the classroom go outside and work in the school garden, and the behaviors go away. Um, what I loved about teaching ag in my classroom, the last year I was teaching for sure, I had students who tested into gifted and students who tested in to special ed, needed those extra resources. They all stayed in my room.
Mm.
But agriculture was the one topic when I put it in front of the class, they were all the same playing field.
Huh.
Because my gifted kids didn't know anything, my kids who need those extra resources, they could have a conversation and learn together. So it was a very cool experience to see that and see those kids really take ownership of what was going on. And so I think like I said, once they get involved, it's this is awesome. And this is what I'm going to start doing more often.
The one other one to piggyback on that too, this is a resource for teachers, but a big part of Ag in the Classroom is volunteers.
Hmm.
Talk about that aspect of that and kind of how that could, you know, potentially help teachers, help classrooms,
Hmm.
like you said, kind of maybe even take some of that off their plate.
Yeah. So what makes Georgia Farm Bureau so special is our volunteers. And one of my I think the favorite thing about my job is meeting these volunteers and helping them out and providing resources. They don't mind calling me at any time with questions, needing resources. Can you help create this? And it gets me excited to see their excitement to do a lesson or share their experience and what happened in the classroom. We have a Facebook page called Friends of Georgia Farm Bureau that people can go on, and it makes me so happy when I get on there and I start seeing posts of the activities that they're doing, especially when they're going into a classroom and they're helping that teacher with a lesson. Some of our office managers are told we're doing a lesson on families. We want it through an ag lens. What does that look like? And so
Mm,
they'll call me and we can talk through different book ideas, suggestions. Some teachers are like, you know what? We have a Friday and we've got 30 minutes and we just want you to come and do whatever you want to do. So it could be something seasonal. A lot of our volunteers love to do cooking. So on our
mm,
website, you can find a lot of no-bake recipes. So we're not worried about somebody burning their hand or anything like that. But it's just giving kids the opportunity to try a food that they may not normally try, but because they've had a hand in preparing that recipe, they're more than likely going to try and see if they like it or not. So our volunteers are in every county. So if you're interested, if you're a teacher listening, or you know a teacher, I would encourage them to reach out to their local farm bureau, set up a meeting, have a conversation of this is what's going on at my school. How can you plug in? Or this is where I need help. and just start that conversation, which is what I did, especially in Jones County. We had a meeting and I told them, this is my goal. Like next year, I'd love to have 2 raised beds. I like to have this density. They're like, we can help you with that. So people don't know what you want till you ask, and they can only say no or not right now, or we can't, but we know someone who can. So it's just putting all those pieces together and knowing what the teachers need and want, and then making a plan going forward.
Gotcha. One final question for you, Lauren. One cool, and you touched on it, I think, just a smidge earlier, but one really neat thing about this is, like you said, there's a lot of pressure on teachers to, obviously meet their
Mhm.
standards, the state standards, maybe even federal. To be honest, that's a little convoluted for me, but that may not be factual or accurate. But I do know there are standards, and
Mhm.
regardless, teachers are held to those.
Yes.
But one neat thing about these, about agriculture in general, and even possibly these videos that you're putting together, these resources, is how it can help them obtain those standards. I think one big thing that has been pushed in recent years is STEM or STEAM, I believe.
Yep.
Talk about that aspect of how these can be incorporated into those and help teachers meet standards in a lot of other areas, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so especially with STEAM, STREAM, STEM, they just keep adding more letters to that acronym. Um,
Right.
a lot of our schools are doing STEM through agriculture. And so each grade will have a certain topic that they are the experts on and study. And those kids really take ownership of some really big projects. But they were in it from the beginning, so it's really fun for them and to see them grow. When I was in the classroom, I felt like I could take almost any standard and tie it back to agriculture in some aspects. I don't expect all teachers to think through all that, make everything go back to agriculture. But it's one of those things like once you really start thinking about ag and all the pieces that are part of agriculture, it's so easy to plug them into the standards. Um, that I grew up on a farm, knew a lot of farmers, was very involved with our local farm bureau. So understanding what that looked like and how agriculture looks today helped me in my classroom. One of the things that I think is important for teachers is just to start small. Find those few, especially your science and your social study lessons, those tie in so easy. To agriculture, I know like our math program was very do this on day one, do this on day two. Same thing with our English language arts. Like we had a scripted almost program. So those you couldn't quite as easily tie in some of the stuff, but anytime I could slip something in, I definitely
Mm,
did. Um, the kids loved it. I loved it. It gave us all something to get excited about. So if you have the ability to have a garden outside your classroom door, if you have the ability to hatch chicks, all those things, you're tying in so many standards in a very real life, practical way, and kids aren't gonna forget about it, and I ain't gonna lie, John, when those chicks started hatching, like, I nutted up in the classroom, the kids started nutting up in the classroom because our babies were hatching, and it was
yeah,
like, "Okay, they don't like a lot of noise, we've got to calm down," but, I mean, the entire day, we
yeah,
were we were so excited about watching those chicks hatch and
yeah.
watch them dry out, and those kids knew what a life their life cycle, they knew what they needed because we
Hmm.
researched it. My first graders were writing, like, little papers about chicks and what they needed in order to grow and be healthy, so it's just finding ways to add that excitement into your classroom and using agriculture, which is a very natural
Yeah,
topic to put into your classroom.
yeah. That's awesome. Um, all right. Well, one last thing, I'm going to get you to be able to, share some information on how people can get involved, how people can find these resources. Um, tell the audience, tell those listening, how they could do so.
Easiest thing is probably just go to Google and type in Georgia Farm Bureau Ag in the Classroom. It will take you to our website where you can also find other resources like our traveling trunks are on there that are free for teachers to use. And they'll find contact information, helpful websites, the contests that we have. So we have something for middle school and high school coming up, which is our art contest. That will happen in the fall and be due in the spring. So anything that we have going on, we update on that website. Find us on Facebook, share your pictures of what you're doing. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to me, reach out to your local farm bureau. And if they don't have the answer, I promise you they know how to contact me and they will ask me the questions.
Awesome. Good deal, Lauren. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining me on this great Thursday morning, almost
Yay!
Friday. We almost made it.
So
But
close.
so close, but so far away. Um, all right, Lauren, thanks again. Thanks
Yes,
for everything. I will make sure to put these resources and links on our show notes page so you guys can find those a
perfect.
little bit more easily. But yeah, thanks again, Lauren. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Hey y'all, I'm Tom McCall, President of Georgia Farm Bureau. As we all know, fall is just around the corner, and with that comes all kind of events and festivals, and especially one that we all look forward to is the Georgia National Fair in Perry. The fair begins on October the 3rd and runs through the 13th. It has something for everyone, rides, games, shows, and don't ever forget the great fair foods. Also remember the fair gives everybody a chance to connect with Georgia's #1 industry, agriculture. Be sure to visit the Georgia Grown Building, the Baby Barn, and all the great ag exhibits in the booth. Especially stop by the Georgia Farm Bureau booth and visit the #1 ag organization in Georgia. Also, make sure to take a walk through the livestock barns to see some of the prettiest cattle, sheep, goats, and hogs in Georgia. Visit with our young livestock exhibitors and their families. I want to personally invite you to join us on Saturday, October the 5th for Georgia Farm Bureau Day at the fair and help us celebrate all things ag. For more information, go to georgianationalfair.com. Jane and I look forward to seeing you at this event, and we all are going to have fun celebrating agriculture.